Talking about pop cultures, or one of pop culture's most popular franchises, surely this won't go wrong for me. Hi, my name's Drew and welcome to another review video on Flying Wiener. Now, I was thinking about whether to do this video or not, but I feel yes, because if there's at least one person watching this who hasn't heard of, or at least as I did just before, very recently, not seen Avatar the Last Airbender, I thought if I can convince one person to watch it, I will have fulfilled my goal. Because yes, that is the very quick, spoilery cut of this review, Avatar the Last Airbender. I understand now fully why people love it so much, and I would recommend that you watch it if you're into cartoons. Yes, cartoons, anime style cartoons that are at least first intended for children, but turn out to be a lot more than that. So I also know, before anyone goes, oh, but wait a second, this isn't Avatar the Last Airbender just because he's bold. I know, but I'm still going to tell my kid this was my Aang. Nah, I'm kidding. I know this is One Punch Man. I just thought it was funny to put it on because at least there's a small similarity. Anyway, we're talking about not just Avatar the Last Airbender, and to clarify, I'm not talking about the M. Night Shyamalan film. I did watch it. That was actually the first thing I watched of this franchise like 2 years ago, so I was like, okay, this was really bad, this film. But don't worry, I still knew that someday I will eventually watch the show that everyone is so hyped about. Now, Netflix is making a new one. We'll have to wait and see whether it's good or not. It's live action, and I've already heard that the original writers, they deserted the project, so it's already very questionable what's going to happen of it. But we will be talking about the Nickelodeon show that came out in the early 2000s, right? And we'll also talk about The Legend of Korra, which came out a few years after, which is in a later time period in the same world, okay? That's what we're talking about today. Now, if you're not familiar with the franchise, I don't blame you. Like I say, I wasn't either. I just knew that it was really popular, and it was really funny, by the way, seeing the whole thing in a 4:3 screen, because that's back then, for those of you who don't know, we didn't have flat screens, so the ratio was a bit different back then. So that was really weird watching it in that ratio. What is this about? This is in this world that we are in, people are able to bend the elements. It's called bending. So you've got the 4 typical elements that we know from many different things, books, myths, whatever, what have you. So you've got fire, you've got water, you've got air, and you've got earth, right? And because of that, people, depending on who they are, you know, they can develop these bending skills. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. I'm not sure if it's actually limited to geography, but these people, at least, they come together geographically in kingdoms. So you've got the water kingdom, earth, you know, air, and the fire kingdom. So you've got, you know, the people come together who can do the same bending, and they generally live in peace. And the story of this show is that the fire kingdom, they suddenly decided one day they're going to take over the world. They eliminated all of the air nomads, the people who could air bend, because they were monks, or Zen-like Buddhist monks you can think of as a comparison. And they eliminated them because they saw, excuse me, they eliminated them because they saw them as the biggest threat to their world domination. And yeah, so they are fighting a 100-year war to suppress the earth and the water kingdom as well. Our story starts towards the end of this war, because there's a mystical being in every generation, I would say. It's called the Avatar. This is one person who actually has the ability to bend all 4 elements at the same time, because usually all people can only do one, but this person is able to do all 4. He was believed to be gone because there's only one in a generation, like I said, and for over 100 years he's not popped up. Reason being, he was frozen in ice. He is actually the last airbender, that's why the show is called that. So they missed one monk, the Fire Nation missed one monk, and he is discovered in the ice. He's just a little boy, his name is Aang. I assume he's supposed to be around 10, 12 years old, something like that, I suppose 12-ish, yeah, sort of teenage years. He's stumbled upon by people from the water tribe, and, you know, he knows that he's the Avatar. He knows what he needs to do, because his general job is to keep the balance in the world. So he knows To do this, he needs to take out the Fire Nation, or at least their leader, right? And that's what this show is about. So he sets out to learn not only how to bend the other elements, because at the starting point he can only do airbending, but also to save the world, basically. It seems very simplistic, the whole thing, if you put it that way, but it's really cool. And I will say, again, it's a children's show, but it's really cool how it's inspired by Eastern philosophies, and how the whole thing discusses just things like morality and how you act in society, how people should act towards each other with courtesy and all these kind of things. So it really surprised me, the show really did. So I can see why it's so popular. It's not only cool because, yeah, I mean, any one of us would love to wield an element. It's not only cool in that sense, so when it comes to the action, but also you really care about these characters. They're well written. There's a lot of humour in it. It's not just funny, so the humour is placed very well at some times to really alleviate some of the more serious nature of the show, because it does get quite serious at times. And like I say, for a kids show, I was actually very impressed, because I was thinking, yeah, I mean, I didn't watch it back then. I mean, I wasn't a kid anymore, but I mean, I felt like, yeah, I mean, this would be a really good show to let your kid watch, to sort of, you know, think about a few moral issues that we encounter in our everyday lives. One thing, and really the only thing I think that I can fault it for, is the animation, especially in the start. It seems, you can tell that they didn't have as much money, so the quality isn't as high as you would love it to be. But nonetheless, I like how the characters are designed, and the design is kept throughout, so it feels like a very compact story. I wouldn't be surprised to learn that it was written like that from the start, so everything was planned out from the beginning, because it feels like a nice full story. It's only got 3 series, but that is the conclusion of the story once you reach it, and it feels very satisfying, and it feels like a really cool journey you go on. So yeah, I think it's a lot of fun, and I can see why people like it. Now, I said we'll also talk about The Legend of Korra, which came out afterwards. So this is actually the Avatar after Aang, so once he passes. She comes along, she is turned into the new Avatar, and what's interesting here is that we're in the same world, but it's moved on from this 100 Years War. I won't tell you how it concluded. No spoilers here. They've moved on, and they've actually founded a republic city, which is meant to sort of bring everyone together. Bring all the people together from the different nations, and also at the same time, it's a bit sort of steampunky, because there's a lot of technology that comes in. That develops, of course, and it's an interesting thing where, if you're a fan of the franchise BioShock, this reminded me of that, where you've got sort of a mixture of technological stuff, but also sort of powers that you have, in this case obviously the bending, and how that interweaves with each other in society, because you've still got people who don't bend. And this goes over 4 series, and I was quite surprised, because I was like, oh, I'm probably not going to like this because Aang's gone, and it's a new one, and will this be good? And I was very surprised to see that, yes, it is good. It is good. It's different. It's different, and I think that's good as well, because the first one was all about uniting the world. You've got this one nation who's warring against everyone else, and this other one is like, how do you bring the people together to combine the old, let's call them mystical ways, with the bending, etc. How does that work in a modern world where people are thinking about other things, where society needs different things? And that as well was quite cool, because I think that's also a very relevant topic we have nowadays. Sometimes you have different cultures coming together, and how does that work out? And how do you come to agreements and all this? But they've also got other cool elements. They add in, for instance, they've turned it into a sporting event where you use your bending, you're in teams, and you use your bending to knock other players off the off the playing field. So they introduce a lot of new elements, and they show this world has really moved on quite a lot from what we in the first show is a very sort of traditional world, not really a lot of mechanical stuff going on. And now suddenly we've got a big city with all sorts of things going on. Cars have been invented and all these kind of things. And I think that they do it really well. The one thing that is a bit of a downside is that they have a new villain every series, which I was quite surprised by. I mean, they're good villains, but just the one that you're introduced to in the first series, I actually expected him to be the big band that goes all the way to the end, because they do this cool thing where it's like the people who don't bend, who haven't got these abilities, they feel let down by society. They feel like they've got the short end of the stick and that people are actually oppressing them, people who can bend. And it's a really cool thing. It's like this sort of class war-esque, you know, that escalates in a way. And I thought it was a really cool concept to think about. Yeah, what about the people who can't do it? And would the people who can bend, would they really not show mercy, but, you know, at least be understanding for their position and try to make things work out? It was really interesting, especially once they introduced an element where they start taking away people's ability to bend, and they want to turn the whole world into non-benders. They want to make them equal, you know. So I thought that was really, really interesting, and unfortunately, like I say, it only goes on for one series, and then we've got different villains, because to me at least, none of the villains were as interesting as the very first one. So that was a bit of a letdown, but like I say, they're still good, and it's really interesting because again, it's just a natural development from the first show, and you see what happens, especially as time goes on and technology evolves and gets developed more, and how does that work, especially in a world where spirituality is quite a big thing, you know. And I just liked how both of these interlocked. So yeah, if you're looking for something that, I mean, if you're an anime fan, you know, and you want something that is, at least in my opinion, as good as several animes that you have. I mean, like I say, it is generally a kid's show, so it's obviously not as brutal as you might want to have. I mean, I recently talked about Blue Eye Samurai. It's not that. And while we've got moral issues, etc., it's not to that level, you know, or at least not that dark, let's call it. But it's still very surprisingly things that, you know, I would love for kids to just watch and think about themselves, you know, how they interact with their world and what kind of people they want to be like. So I feel that Avatar and The Legend of Korra, both of them, great shows for kids, sort of pre-teens, teens, you know, that really want to get into these kind of issues. And of course, like I say, a lot of really cool action sequences. So I enjoyed that quite a lot. We'll see what the Netflix show does with the concept. If it's worthwhile talking about, I will do so on this channel once it comes out. I don't even know when that is. We'll see what happens. But in the meantime, definitely check out these two if you can, because they are worthwhile watching. Absolutely enjoyed a lot of my time with these. That'll be all from me today. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe. It is the best way to support this channel. Leave a comment down below. Hopefully I talked about Avatar in the way you hoped. Like I say, I know this is a very popular franchise. I mean, I'm not tiptoeing, it's just my opinion. But, you know, I mean, as I really enjoyed it, I feel that a lot of people out there will agree with me. But still, let me know your comments. I know Legend of Korra wasn't as popular, so maybe you want to tell me a few things about that. The characters weren't quite as good, I will admit, but overall, like I say, I enjoyed the evolution of the world and society in it. Anyway, anything you want to say down in the comments below. I'll thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one on Flying Wiener. Take care, bye.